kind of like fuzzy blockers. They're not really physically they're not physically preventing players from moving through, but they're putting out like this repulsive force saying, maybe we shouldn't go there. So that's what to look for at the macroscopic level is you want to make sure that the density of these hotspots is well placed so that the players aren't all dying in the first place and that they have routes to maneuver between them. So that's why if we could see, and I have no idea exactly what data Epic actually collects on this. I'm pretty certain that they do collect data because they did that whole big spreadsheet saying like 7 trillion people played or touchdown or something like that. So I know they're collecting data. Now, if they had like flow maps, they would be able to see the major highways that people take and the high density routes. And probably something that you'll notice is in multiplayer games like this, you'll know that choke points are a big factor. Either you need them or you don't. Overwatch uses choke points readily as part of their gameplay, as that it helps accentuate the use of ultimates from their heroes.
Somebody at 255 running into that. Did you see them?
No.
There's 3 people at least.
I got a shotgun if you need a shotgun.
No, I've got one.
TFT uses choke points as a way to dictate flow and pacing through maps.
Wall's getting pretty close too.
One
person on the tower.
And one to your left. Unless that was Matt. That person, I was gonna say that person didn't have a gun. And there's somebody up on the tower. So with choke points, you see them appear at the macroscopic level. I just keep running because you guys aren't going to be able to make it. At the macroscopic level of this design, you have like fuzzy choke points that appear in between the major hotspots, and those are dictated And those are dictated by the circle that these guys are now caught in. So the circle on the macroscopic level is... These guys have a chance to fight here.
And that's actually a really good example of the circle increasing the density. Is we didn't see anyone for the most part the entire time we were running, and then we got here, and now there's 2 other groups with us.
Doug, do you need to get back in?
Yeah, I had to reboot because my audio was messed up.
No problem. So the ring has probably I think that the ring, or in Fortnite's specific case, the storm, has a very big impact on the macroscopic level and kind of on the mesoscopic level of gameplay. And we haven't touched on Meso yet, but for macroscopic, the ring is one of those threats. You want to avoid that. So that will dictate the route that players make to get into the safe zone, which would be the center of the storm. So we have all these hotspots. We're like, all right, towns and cities, those are hot. Visibility of players, those are hot. Sometimes even some geographical features, like some mountains, are favored more by teams who have a lot of sniper rifles, for example, or high-powered long-range weaponry. Those you want to keep an eye on. Like, you might actually want, in that case, so that might be like, you don't want to avoid them, but you want to be really close to them, because if you're at the base of one of these mountains, the snipers aren't going to be able to see you, and you can just sneak on by. So on the macroscopic level, you have all these like pathways and stuff that players have to move their way through. Now, moving down a level, we're talking about the mesoscopic level, which would be the regional parts. That would be like, we are in the Moisty Mire, so that would be like the entirety of this region right here, the Moisty Mire and everything around it. That would be mesoscopic. Wailing Woods I'd say Wailing Woods and Tomato Town. Those would be a mesoscopic region. Movement through that is also important. So we have the high level issue, or we have the high level thing, and then we have the medium level now. So we're looking at the regional area and how do players move through. So you can see here there's a bunch of geographical little things. To disable that. A bunch of little geographical things. So players are probably going to be moving along these pathways. There's a little hotspot prison right there. We're going to have to. We would generally want to avoid that if we didn't feel like we were comfortable taking it. If we didn't think anyone was there. Do we want to go back to the mire?
No.
No.
Too late now. Flush factory.
Yeah. Okay.
So So we move at the macroscopic level, and that's kind of the players. That's like the player's big picture. They're not. The player isn't thinking macroscopically entirely. We've done it a couple of times as a way to kind of figure out, because if you take like the path that the battle bus takes, you can use that and describe and kind of figure out exactly where people might be based on other hotspots. So it's like we knew that the battle bus went this way.
There are other people going.
Yep, we got a couple with us.
I'm gonna stand on top of the seal because there's a chest. Unless
I'm gonna get the chest here.
Matt
I'm gonna land
beat
on
me
the
to
side.
that chest. Matt beat me to that chest. So so we landed. I would say we're in the Flush Factory mesoscopic zone. This is where the design really kicks into more intricate levels of things. Because now you're worried less about the like fuzzy gameplay of players, and you're more looking at the actually how are they going to start interacting with each other directly rather than indirectly. Ugh. Though north, that's not too bad. Yeah. How many people you got down there?
Doug, you the only one down there?
Yeah, there's at least two.
I'd say
think I
bail
saw
out.
All I've seen.
I'd say bail out if you can,
Alright.
and then we'll just head north and get into the circle.
Joe, do you have a gun?
I have an assault rifle, yes. It's white tier, but yeah.
Alright, yeah, I'm gonna bail, head a little east and then run north.
Got one running towards you, Doug. He might be going into the building, I'm not sure. Nope, he sees you.
Oh, shoot.
I got no visual on that guy. So this would
Neither
be
do I, but if we shoot a few bullets, it'll make him think we do.
so what we're dealing with now would be meso and microscopic level gameplay, and I'll talk about microscopic gameplay, but basically microscopic would be this building. That would be the microscopic level of things, is you have players are now interacting with each other within architecture. So the mesoscopic thing here, let's use our current predicament as a solution. That is down there, that's Doug in red. I'm being shot. Where is that?
Run.
Running. So that's Doug down in red. He needs to come and meet with us. We know that this Flush Factory here, we know there's people there, so he's not going to run in front of Flush Factory. He's probably going to go around to the right, and he'll meet us probably somewhere around where I just put my blue marker.
Joe, you fell for the level design trap of mountains,
Yes, I did. Because they're a pain to get off of.
which I think is actually an interesting point that we can talk about later, is how in the single player game there are no one-way mountains, but in multiplayer there are.
Actually, no, now would be a good time, because mountains would imply... Mountains are part of the mesoscopic gameplay flow. And I didn't mention this beforehand, but we are going to be talking a lot about flow and pacing. More so flow, because it's going to be dictating what... the flow is basically what dictates how the players are going to move through the level. And each tier is important to know. So each level of gameplay has its own type of flow.
Do you have a gun?
Yeah, I've got a gun.
Okay. Do you have an assault rifle? I have a spare one.
I do not.
So I think mountains in Battle Royale are interesting, as the circle pushes you into a direction, and that direction changes, and a lot of times you can end up with cases where you want to be on the mountain because in general high ground is good, but the downside of being on the mountain is when the circle closes, you'll be forced off the mountain in the direction you came from. So you'll have to go back down the mountain unless you end up... I think a lot of the mountains are actually pointed towards the center, which kind of helps encourage this. So you end up with cases where you can get the high ground, but then you have to backtrack possibly through the storm to get off the mountain. Or if you want to build down the side of the mountain, you can. But when you use player construction to build anything, it's very obvious and it's very easy to see people doing that, so it gives away your location. So it's an interesting trade-off of high ground for gameplay reasons, but the trade-off is leaving that location is more dangerous to you than if you had not gone up on that hill.
Yeah, and that's something that comes down into like I'm gonna because we're doing Meso Scopic here. This is how we're gonna be moving through the region, so it's kind of more we're focusing in a bit more, and these mountains are a bit of those trade-offs. Is they can be repulsors, so they could push players away, or they can attract players, and each one it's like they have their own like plus or minus. So you want to make sure that when you're designing this type of map, there's a guy northeast 30 in the riverbank. He's on the right hand side. He definitely saw me.
I see him. He's looking at us.
Probably as a sniper. I see him. Don't engage, even though they know.
There's two more running over. 230.
230.
At 30.
Oh yeah. No, that's them. There's a total of 4 of them.
Yeah,
So this is a good example. We know where people are. What are we going to do about it? And how we deal with that decision is based on the level. So we know that they're going to be going in the northwest direction. Do we want to go try and sneak around them through the northeast? Is the design going to incorporate or allow us to do that or not? And here we see them play out. It's like real life here, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Oh god, that's a mess.
Yeah, what are they doing?
They're building a fort, like, directly west of me.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. I don't know if we have the ability to actually storm that.
Oh,
I have
no,
one gun and 23 bullets.
I got 40.
They're just on top of this little hill.
Are they shooting you?
No.
Nice, they turned their backs to us.
Oh, thanks, guys. Oh, shit, I fell. Alright, that one's one down. Ah, crap, there's two over there. So this is a microscopic gameplay thing that I'll talk about. Oh, we got a guy to our left. So we had this, if we had been looking more at the Meso level of things, we could probably have seen, hey, there's probably going to be people there. And we probably could have figured that out. But with the storm closing in, we had to make a decision very quickly. And that's what the storm does, is that it really pushes the decision level. Or pushes the decisions. Right, okay, so back in again. The thing that, so we have like those mountains and the buildings. Those are the mesoscopic things inside the level, or inside that region, that really help dictate player flow, which would be how players move through. And if it's solo or duo or squads, which are the three different game modes that you normally see in a battle royale game, those will also dictate some way on how the level plays out. So when you're designing if you're designing this type of game, you want to kind of really think, what modes am I going to have? How many people are going to be moving through this world? Because then you want to be able to make sure that the regions that the players are going to be in, and this starts falling down into the microscopic gameplay, which would be like the individual buildings. That would be microscopic. How do the players move when they're very close to each other? How do they do gameplay based on, like, how does gameplay move based on that? So it's one of those things where it's like, if it's like solos, players are going to be moving differently than if it's duos, and if it's 4 people, they're going to be playing differently than if it's duos. And so a single that hill that we were just fighting on with a single person, if that was just like solos and just one person fighting another one person, or maybe it was 3 people all fighting each other in solos, that was going to be playing differently than if, in our case, it was, say, 2 duos. So that would be 4 people. Only one more person, but that's going to play drastically different because now there's a bit of strategy involved. And that's where the micro gameplay comes in. So micro gameplay would be like the individual buildings, the individual hills, how those trees are placed on the hills, the immediate gameplay spots. Where do you want to go? Okay. So
It's good to move around and show different areas.
yeah. So that's one of those things. So when you're looking at again at Meso Scopic gameplay, that'd be the middle level. That'd be like the regional parts of this map, the part that you can see
There's
right
another
now.
person going.
Really?
Yeah, he's got like the same trajectory I do.
Okay, well, that'll be fun. I'm gonna hit these houses over here towards 50. I cannot drop my chute anymore. So those are the things that you want to kind of consider. So like this building, that would be where you'd kick into like the microscopic gameplay, and that would have a much different level design theory, obviously, than say the whole world, the whole island itself. All right, All right, Doug's the only person who landed near me. It looks like.
Yep. Because I missed you, Joe.
Thanks. Alright, so
I'm gonna be dead.
I'm coming.
I'm on my way.
There's somebody at the ice cream truck.
So, so like all these hills that we're seeing right here, these would be microscopic stuff. This would be things that the player can immediately use.
Got a person in the White House
Part of
between
the
you
level,
and
I
I
should
know.
say. Is that my phone or your phone?
That was mine.
Okay. So like these hills and stuff would be like the immediate sections that players would be. This would be the microscopic gameplays, how we move on a very small level. You said there's someone in the White House? There's somebody at the hill on the ice cream truck.
Another, they have Noah pinned down.
All right, and you said there is somebody in the White House?
Last I saw.
Oh, I see him directly east from my position.
I'm coming, Noah. Hang on.
No, there's somebody in this house, Joe, in the house right.
Can't hit me.
All right, I see him. Oh, I do not see
I
them.
don't have a gun though.
In this blue house?
Yep.
Yep, I see them. They're up top, second floor.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find a gun down there.
And this is where micro gameplay stuff comes in. Is how do we handle this situation? It's all about handling situations.
Alright, where's the light show?
I was dead forever.
Oh, dang, that was one strong shotgun hit.
Okay,